Imagine waking up one morning and finding out your own HOA poured tons of concrete into the creek behind your home, all for a so-called beautification project. At first, it looked sleek, modern, even impressive. But then, the unimaginable happened. Million-dollar homes, the pride of the neighborhood, began sinking into swampy, flooded yards. Lawns turned into marshes, basements filled with water, and the air reeked of stagnant swamp. And here's the kicker. The homeowners themselves had voted for it, not realizing they'd just signed their neighborhood's slow destruction. Today's story will take you inside Willowbend Estates, a once idyllic community where nature's delicate balance was destroyed in just 3 days, and where one retired engineer fought against the odds to bring the creek back before the homes were lost forever. The ending will leave you stunned, and maybe a little scared about your own neighborhood. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us, where in the world are you watching from? Elliot Rayner had chosen Willowbend Estates for one simple reason: the creek. It wasn't just a ribbon of water trickling behind the row of million-dollar homes. It was a living, breathing thread of nature that tied the neighborhood together. Its banks were lined with smooth stones and low shrubs, and in springtime the wild irises bloomed in shades of deep violet. Elliot, a retired environmental engineer with 30 years of fieldwork behind him, loved to start his mornings out there. He'd carry a thermos of coffee and an old Nikon camera, crouching low to capture the way the sunrise gilded the surface of the water. Ducks glided by in pairs. Red-winged blackbirds hopped along the cattails. On breezy days, the air smelled faintly of mint from the wild herbs that grew in the wetter soil. Willowbend's Homeowners Association, the HOA, mostly kept to itself, dealing with the usual business of lawn standards and street lamp repairs. Its president, Miriam Cross, was a woman in her mid-50s with perfect posture and an unshakable smile, the sort of person who could discuss a spreadsheet as though it were an exciting novel. Elliot respected her, though he sometimes found her taste for improvement projects a little aggressive. It started as a whisper at a neighborhood picnic, the idea that the creek, while charming, was a waste of potential. The land could be made more functional, more visually consistent, and less of a maintenance hassle. Elliot's gut tightened when he heard it. Creeks, in his professional opinion, didn't need to be made functional. They already served the most important function of all: moving water away from people's homes. HOA's grand plan. The proposal came at the next monthly HOA meeting. The community room at the clubhouse was packed, folding chairs in neat rows, the scent of lemon polish in the air. On the big screen, Miriam's PowerPoint flickered to life with the title, Project Serenity, Transforming Our Neighborhood for the Future. Slide by slide, she unveiled the plan. Fill in the creek with reinforced concrete, level the area, and construct a broad walking plaza complete with benches, planters, and a small fountain. Imagine, Miriam said, her voice warm, a space where families can gather, where joggers can run year-round without muddy shoes, and where we no longer have to worry about erosion or overgrowth. Several people clapped. Others exchanged uneasy glances. Elliot raised his hand. What about drainage? The creek carries stormwater out of our neighborhood. If we block it— Oh, we've thought of that, Miriam said quickly. We've consulted with experts. Which experts? Elliot asked. A murmur went through the crowd. Miriam's answer was vague. Something about a local contractor who handled similar projects. Elliot suspected similar meant cheap rather than properly engineered. But the momentum was against him. The majority voted yes, the funds were approved, and the date was set. A creek's final day. The work began on a foggy Monday morning. Elliot woke to the rumble of cement trucks lining the street. From his back porch, he watched crews in neon vests set up barriers along the creek. The water still shimmered in the early light, unaware of what was coming. The first load of concrete slid down the chute with a wet, heavy sound smothering the stream bed. The water churned and hissed, foaming as it was forced into temporary side channels. The ducks took flight, their wings catching the mist. Elliot stood there for hours, camera clicking, each photo feeling like a witness statement. Some neighbors came out to watch, but most simply nodded approval at the progress. By Wednesday, the creek was gone. In its place lay a smooth, pale slab stretching between the rows of houses. Crews rolled in decorative planters and set shiny benches in a perfect line. To the untrained eye, it was clean, modern, even beautiful. But to Elliot, it was like staring at a dammed artery. The water had been stopped and nature wouldn't stay silent for long. First signs of trouble. Autumn came with heavy rains. At first nothing seemed amiss. The plaza gleamed under wet skies, its drains gurgling. But in the low yards, water began to linger. On Willowbend's Facebook group, residents posted photos of muddy lawns and shallow pools that didn't drain for days. "Anyone else having this issue?" one post read. Dozens replied yes. Elliot knew exactly why. Without the creek, rainwater had no natural path away from the neighborhood. It was being trapped in the soil, raising the water table. He printed copies of his old engineering blueprints, the original drainage plans for the area, and brought them to the next HOA meeting. "We've interrupted the natural outflow," he explained. "You're seeing the early signs now. By spring, it'll be worse." Miriam smiled tightly. "Thank you, Elliot, but this is normal seasonal fluctuation. Our plaza's drainage system is working perfectly." Elliot left with his papers under his arm, the polite dismissal ringing louder in his ears than the applause for the holiday lights contest announced afterward. When the water wouldn't leave by March, Willowbend was no longer a neighborhood of lush lawns. It was a patchwork of marshes. Kids wore rubber boots to the school bus stop. The smell of standing water, earthy, sour, persistent, hung in the air. Garden sheds leaned, their foundations sinking into soft soil. Mosquitoes arrived early, their swarms thick under the eaves. Residents tried digging shallow trenches to redirect the water, but they only filled again. Elliot's phone buzzed daily with calls from worried neighbors. "Our sump pump's running all night. My basement floor's damp. We've got mildew in the guest room." He told them the truth. The concrete is blocking the water's exit. The only fix is to bring the creek back. Few wanted to hear it. That would mean undoing the expensive project they had voted for, and admitting the HOA had made a colossal mistake. The breaking point. The breaking point came on a humid morning in June. Miriam Cross's own home, the showcase corner lot with pristine hedges, was flooded. Water stood 2 feet deep in her basement, swallowing boxes of family photos. That night, an emergency HOA meeting was called. Gone was Miriam's calm composure. She spoke quickly, urgently. "We may have underestimated the drainage issue. We'll be exploring solutions immediately." Elliot stood, unrolling his blueprints once more. "I can tell you the solution. Remove the concrete in strategic sections, regrade the bed, and restore the creek's path. Then add proper stormwater overflow channels. Yes, it's costly, but anything else is a temporary patch." The treasurer's face was pale. "Our reserve fund is gone. We'd need a special assessment, maybe tens of thousands per household." Groans and murmurs filled the room. Some accused the board of negligence. Others begged for fast action before property values dropped further. By the end of the night, a reluctant vote passed. The plaza would be dismantled. Restoring what was lost work began in late summer. The sound of jackhammers replaced birdsong for weeks, breaking apart the pristine concrete that had been installed less than a year earlier. Heavy machinery dug down to the original bed, hauling away rubble and replanting native grasses. When water finally trickled back into the restored channel, it was as though the neighborhood exhaled. Frogs returned first, their calls echoing at dusk. Then came the ducks, then the dragonflies. By October, most lawns had dried. The smell of damp earth faded. The HOA board held elections. Miriam did not run. Elliot declined any official role, preferring to walk the creek with his camera, capturing the slow, patient return of life. One afternoon, he paused on a small footbridge and looked down at the flowing water. It wasn't quite the same as before. The banks were raw, the vegetation still young, but it was alive again. Some lessons, Elliot thought, had to be learned the hard way. In the end, nature always had the final vote.